Hey guys! About 2 months ago, I made regional variants and convergent forms for Appletun for every single Pokemon typing. A lot of you asked, what would it be like if there was a Flapple of every type? That's what we're going to tackle today. Just a heads up, I had made the Appletuns in the last video based on different pies, not thinking of a second video for Flapple originally. So some of these Flapple forms aren't going to match the Appletuns that were made in that last video, since some of them wouldn't make as much sense with what Flapple is. Now let's see our Flapples of every type. Let's start out with our Fire-type regional form of Flapple. This Flapple is based on baked apples. The apple piece wings appear to have really gotten the brunt of the roasting, with burn marks and the inside of the wings smoking. This Flapple always looks exhausted and like it just emerged from an oven. They are immune to being burned by opponents, but there is an increased chance that they will burn their opponent themselves when using a Fire-type move. Next up is an Electric-type convergent form of Flapple that's based on Lemonade. In the Appletun video, the Electric type was based on lemons and could produce lemonade from the lemon on its head to energize trainers and Pokemon alike. So this Flapple represents that drink itself, though please don't try to drink this Pokemon. This convergent form is extremely energetic and speedy, as if they are constantly having a sugar rush. The body and horn are based on a straw, the wings are lemon slices, and the bottom half of the body looks as if it were submerged in a glass of lemonade. My partner was the one who came up with this idea, and it was too fun not to draw. Propelling down is the flying-type convergent form of Flapple that's based on those seeds that spin down to the ground when falling from the tree they come from. Did you grow up calling these helicopter seeds, whirly birds, propeller seeds, or something else? Instead of flapping its arms to fly, this form of Flapple twists its arms around and uses its seed-like wings to fly around like a helicopter. The speed and force that it uses to do this causes its body to also twist around. They are a very evasive species, and are able to quickly swerve around attacks headed their way. They use their tails to help change the direction they're moving in. Our Steel-type convergent Flapple is just as likely to get mistaken for Ferroseed as it is for the original Flapple. This convergent form can be found dwelling inside of mossy caves. They often are found with their wings folded in, and use the green spikes to attach themselves to walls. This Pokemon does not enjoy fighting out in the wild, and prefers to be left alone. It has adapted over time to look like Ferroseed in the hopes that other Pokemon will not want to get near them. When in combat, this convergent Flapple has higher defense stats, and can shoot out the green spikes from its wings and bottom piece, with new spikes immediately growing back in. We have another regional form of Flapple, this time for the Ghost type. This Flapple is based on a pretty cool scenario that can happen to rotten apples when the weather gets cold enough. Ghost apples can occur when freezing rain coats rotten apples still on a tree. The rain creates a delicate icy shell around the fruit. The apple can eventually rot and fall out of the icy bottom, leaving behind a ghostly shell of the apple that used to be there. The apple-like pieces of this Flapple are a bit transparent and colorless to match these ghost apples, and the bottom piece has a chunk missing from it to hint to the rotten apples that slide out of the icy shells. This Flapple uses ghostly energy to allow this bottom piece to float around its body. Moving on to the Psychic type, we have this convergent form of Flapple that's based on a very interesting climbing plant called the Guarana. This plant has fruits that, when opened, look a lot like eyes. Because of its psychic typing and abilities, this Pokemon doesn't actually need to use its arms and wings to fly, but is capable of levitating. Instead, it uses its wings to partially close around its head, making it look like a giant eye in the sky. This is often enough to scare other Pokemon and leave them frozen in fear. Once they have done this, the convergent Flapple then uses its spiral tail to hypnotize the other Pokemon, using them to do its bidding. The Dark-type convergent form of Flapple is Flantern, a worm dragon Pokemon that is based on jack-o'-lanterns. This Pokemon likes to act tough, but is actually a bit skittish. When they feel threatened, they curl up their wings and body to look like a spooky jack-o'-lantern in an attempt to scare away whoever or whatever is frightening it. During the day, this Flapple form's body and head are a darker color, but when night falls or it starts to get dark out, these body parts are actually able to lighten and glow. This makes the Pokemon look like a lit jack-o'-lantern. It's theorized that this form of Flapple stores light from the sun during the day, and then uses it when dark to light up. We have another Flapple form that matches the Appletun of the same typing, with this Poison-type regional Flapple. This Flapple is inspired by poison apples. The inside of the apple bottom makes it look like poison ooze in the inside. The apple pieces are made to look like the apple itself is rotting. The inside of the wings are gooey and look like they are starting to slide from the base of the wings. I had to make our water type convergent form of Flapple based on a fruit that has water right in its name, the watermelon. These fruits are 92% water. This high water content is emphasized in the design, with the color of the body being a bluish color and the horn on its head looking like a spout of water. The watermelon base connected to its tail is heavier than other forms of Flapple, so this Pokemon enjoys chilling out on the ground when it can to conserve some energy. This Pokemon is well loved by young children during hot summer months, as it will happily shake water out from its wings and spin around to act like a sprinkler for children to play and cool off. I had a lot of fun creating this ice-type convergent form of Flapple. This Pokemon is partly inspired by ice worms, which are dark-colored worms that can be found in glacial ice in Alaska, Washington, Oregon, and British Columbia. Since these worms are familiar with ice and snow, I made the wings and part attached to the tail look like snowballs. The wings can come together to look like the head of a snowman, with the bottom part looking like the body. This form of Flapple has a horn that at certain angles resembles a top hat that you might see atop the head of a snowman. Our fairy-type convergent form of Flapple incorporates elements associated with fairy Pokemon, as well as actual fairies and myth. Fairies are said to be associated with fruits and berries, while fairy-type Pokemon are often pink. So I combined both of these and made this form of Flapple based on pink berries like Proudberries and Hypericum berries. This form of Flapple is incredibly cheerful and a bit mischievous. Their tail is completely covered in berry-looking orbs that it can drop on opponents. The convergent form of Flapple that is part Bug-type is this Pokemon. It matches the Bug-type Appletun we previously made, and is also inspired by gummy worms and chocolate dirt cups. Unlike most Flapple, this variant likes to hide in the dirt. It will lay down on its belly and place its wings behind its back. These wings look a lot like dirt, and can blend into its surroundings. They are sensitive to vibrations, and if they sense any kind of footsteps nearby, they will spring up into the air and start flying. What would make a normal type Flapple form seem as regular as possible than a Pokemon that is literally just a worm dragon? Or I guess technically a wyvern, but close enough. This form of Flapple doesn't have anything crazy going on. Its arms are also its wings, and just look like regular old wyvern wings. There also isn't any kind of piece attached to its tail, and of course the body itself had to look like a wiggly pink garden worm. This fighting type convergent form of Flapple is made to look like a pineapple. Why a pineapple for a fighting type Pokemon? The exterior of a pineapple is spiky and rough to the touch, which it uses to help protect the juicy fruit inside from predators. The inside of the pineapple can pack even more of a wallop than the outside. If you've ever eaten enough pineapple, you may have noticed your tongue start to hurt over time. This is because pineapple contains an enzyme called bromelain, which attacks the protein on your tongue as you eat. This form of Flapple is aggressive and won't back down from a fight until it is completely knocked out. For our rock-type Flapple, we have this convergent form that's made to resemble macadamia nuts. Macadamia nuts are the hardest nut to crack, requiring 300 pounds of pressure per square inch to open. The toughness of this nut made me think of how durable rock-type Pokemon are, and thus this form of Flapple was born. The wings are made to look like a split shell of a macadamia nut, while its tail coils around a sphere that resembles the yummy inside. This Pokemon isn't the most tolerant of others, and lacks patience. Its upper body is much stronger than you'd think, and it will go right up to an opponent and slam its wings against them. And finally, we have our ground-type convergent form of Flapple. This design was inspired by a plant with ground in the name, ground cherries. The plant itself produces fruits that are surrounded by a thin, papery husk that encloses the fruit inside. The leaf-looking pieces on this Flapple's tail and wings appear delicate. These parts are made from what seems to be sand. When fighting an opponent, it will usually start its attack by folding their wings in and releasing a flurry of sand into the opposing Pokemon's eyes.
Pocket sand!
This will often kick up a storm, allowing the Pokemon to be more difficult to spot as it moves in to land critical blows against its opponent. Which Flapple regional form or variant was your favorite? I probably won't be creating any more apple-related Pokemon like Applin or Diplin, or if I do, it won't be for a long time. So let me know what other Pokemon you would like to see get a form for every type. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!